Companies provide plastic in the economy based on the item's marketability. Mineral water is an example of a popular common good. The product differs from tap water in taste and content. The Food and Drug Administration authorizes all companies to sustain a specific amount of minerals in mineral water. Public water treatment companies must limit the sodium, magnesium, calcium, inorganics, and salt. The federal government governs water quality standards. The FDA reviews specific water quality standards. The FDA does not govern the source of mineral water. The primary source of mineral water is underground sources. Groundwater is an underground source of water. Springs, artesian wells, and aquifers are groundwater sources. The Environmental Protection Agency governs navigable bodies of water. For clarity, a large aquatic system conducive to travel by ship or boat is navigable. The Clean Water Act is the framework for governance and context of navigable bodies of water. An example of a groundwater source is the Mount Shasta region. A natural spring located in the region is a source for water. Another source is the Topo Chico Spring in Monterrey, Mexico. The FDA has no governing authority in Mexico in context to municipal, state, or federal environmental protection. The federal government requires limits on specific elements. The government limits primary pollutants. Primary pollutants are nitrogen, phosphorus, E. coli, biological oxygen demand, and total suspended solids. Wastewater treatment operators remove the pollutants during the treatment process. Public drinking water systems and wastewater treatment systems perform significantly different treatment processes. The FDA upholds and authorizes quality standards. The standards are comprehensive. Standards for the various wastewater and public water systems are not comprehensive. Water treatment services must apply the best practices for ensuring water quality. Specifically, each water and wastewater system functions within specific directives aimed at treating water to a specific standard. No wastewater or water treatment laws are the same. The FDA water quality standards are uniform, comprehensive, and universal. The Environmental Protection Agency applies a command and control approach of governance. State agencies, local governments, and citizens are the subjects of the commands. Federal government commands and controls public water treatment systems. The following list is a historical account of the nation's water quality framework, stated by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Agency. Quote, the Rivers and Harbors Act of 1899 prohibits the construction of any bridge, dam, dike, or causeway over or in a navigable waterway of the U.S. without congressional approval. In context, in 1899, the government prohibited easements within waterways of the U.S. A quote from the Environmental Protection Agency. The Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1948 was the first major U.S. law to address water pollution. Quote, the law made it unlawful for any person to discharge any pollutant from a point source into a navigable water unless a permit was obtained under the provisions. End of quote. In context to the law, businesses and individuals could not discharge any pollutants into the water body without a lawful permit. Quote from the Environmental Protection Agency. Quote, the Federal Water Pollution Control Act of 1948 was the first major U.S. law to address water pollution. Growing public awareness and concern for controlling water pollution led to sweeping amendments in 1972. As amended in 1972, the law became commonly known as the Clean Water Act. End of quote. In context to the Clean Water Act, the law was the first comprehensive law that governed water pollution within the nation. Quote from the Environmental Protection Agency. Quote, the National Pollution Discharge and Elimination System Permit Program, created in 1972 by the Clean Water Act, helps address water pollution by regulating point source that discharge pollutants to water of the U.S. End of quote. In context to the NPDES discharge into water bodies. Quote from the Environmental Protection Agency. Quote, the Safe Drinking Water Act was originally passed by Congress in 1974 to protect public health by regulating the nation's public drinking water supply. End of quote. In context to the Safe Drinking Water Act, entities must ensure public water is safe for drinking. The Safe Drinking Water Act was the first law enacted to ensure safe drinking water. Quote from the Environmental Protection Agency. Quote, established in 1993, 40 CFR Part 503 Standards for the Use of Disposal sewage sludge that is applied to land, fired in a sewage sludge incinerator, or placed on a surface disposal site. End of quote. In context of 40 CFR Part 503, the law was established for entities to properly dispose of solid material produced during the wastewater treatment process. In other words, the byproducts of wastewater treatment must be disposed of properly. Quote from the state of Texas, founded in 2002, the purpose of this chapter is to establish general requirements, quality criteria, design, and operational requirements for the beneficial use of reclaimed water, which may be substituted for potable water and or raw water. End of quote. In context to the message provided by the state of Texas, Texas Administrative Code 210.2 is the statute for beneficial reuse. Humanity occupies almost half of the United States Great Plains region. The data exemplifies exponential growth of civilization and the need for solutions that alleviate the stress placed on finite resource reclamation. Water facilities satisfy environmental issues caused by social and economic externalities. Best management practices used to repurpose non-potable water are conducive to resource conservation and sustainable urban development. In 2014, Martin described a best management practice presented by the Colorado River Municipal Water District. Quote, it took over a decade to research, test, and determine an alternative, but by May 2013, the CRMWD opened a DPR plant which can treat up to 2 million gallons of wastewater effluent per day to drinking water standards. The forward-thinking approach to resource conservation and recovery predates the beneficial wastewater reuse credit program established by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and other programs designed to sustain water availability. The supplementary good is a social benefit and a sustainable resource that mitigates demand issues caused by population growth and the Texas climate. In 2007, Sloan commented on funds dedicated to the protection process. Quote, annual operating costs produce an average of 1.5 million gallons per day of purified reclaimed water is estimated at about $667,000 for power, chemicals, labor, and equipment replacement. End of quote. Advanced wastewater treatment consists of 3 stages: primary, secondary, and chemical treatment. The concept introduced by leaders in Big Springs, Texas, enhances the aesthetics and integrity of treated wastewater. The strategic alliance of parties involved in the reclamation project received national recognition for creating a product that meets the National Pollution Elimination Discharge System and National Drinking Water Regulation standards. The supplementary good is an efficient alternative to the water traditionally supplied to communities in West Texas. The CRMWD provides an incentive that is a positive externality that addresses resource availability and the long-run average demands associated with wastewater effluent production, an environmental challenge that requires the assistance of policy instruments and the respect of ethically conscious individuals is wastewater reclamation. The Environmental Federal Regulation of Congress sets stipulations for the ethical and physical treatment of municipal wastewater, specifically 40 CFR 65.1256. In 2019, the Environmental Protection Agency described why congressional Federal Regulation 40 CFR 405 through 40 CFR 471 are necessary for controlling the fate and transport of hazardous pollutants that are natural or synthetic. Treatment facilities have the ability to add value to the end of phase waste, natural gas, biomass, and reclaimed water. For example, the Texas Administrative Code 210 subparts B and C gives municipal and industrial treatment facilities in the state the ability to repurpose remediated wastewater for public and commercial use. There are incentives to wastewater treatment, but there are also mandatory standards that public-owned treatment works and public entities must adhere to. It's stated by the Environmental Protection Agency in 2019. The NPDES permit program addresses water pollution by regulating point source that discharge pollutants to waters of the United States. End of quote. While mandatory standards are effective at controlling environmental quality. Incentives that promote energy efficiency and optimal operations procedures are also necessary for reducing the environmental impact of the energy intensive industries. Policy instruments can advance the demand of concerned citizens of society and protect future generations from human activities that threatens resource availability. Committees and economic sectors can benefit from effective, adaptable, and sustainable products and services. However, there are no unilateral benefits that would transfer equally throughout society. Therefore, future research and development is necessary to move the current educational tools, products, and services and regulatory guidelines closer to aligning with sustainable development agendas.